Huawei is back on Indian soil and they've chosen two great devices to reignite their journey here. The more interesting one of the bunch is probably this, the P20 Pro. It's gotten almost every flagship feature imaginable and packs in the world's first triple camera system at the back. A lot of promises therefore, but we want to know how it actually performs with all that technology under the hood. This is Sandeep from RevAtlas and this is our review of the Huawei P20 Pro. Before you get sucked into all the technical jargon and the long feature list that this thing packs, you'd most likely be taken aback by the beautiful design. Whichever color variant you choose, black or blue, or even this twilight which unfortunately isn't coming to India, you'll still get the same stellar build quality and premium feel. The glass back blends in amazingly well with the aluminum mid-frame and that's not easy to achieve. The glass at the back is glossy and has a mirror finish that is quite tough to keep clean but looks great when you do so. It isn't as slippery as I expected, probably thanks to the frame which offers pretty good grip and sticks to your fingers despite what the gloss might suggest. On this particular Twilight variant, there's an ever so slight tinge of violet in the frame as well. Even the back panel shifts color on all the variants as a result of its reflective nature. The device feels pretty light and is mostly due to the good weight distribution. The front glass has an ever so slight curve, but it feels like the glass structure itself is split into two parts. One being the glass that protects the display and the other being a band glass that runs all around that and blends in with the aluminum frame. The bezels up front are small but not the smallest around. Nonetheless, the high screen to body ratio translates into a compact form factor that's quite a bit smaller than the S9 Plus from Samsung despite having a screen that's nearly as big. The bezels at the top are a bit bigger than the sides and that loses out a bit on symmetry but is not anything major. The major bezel though is at the bottom chin, which also houses a fingerprint scanner. The always active unit is perhaps the fastest fingerprint scanner we've seen on an Android phone, and some would have preferred it to be on the back, but I guess Huawei didn't want to disrupt the flowing nature of the back panel, especially considering the huge camera setup at the rear. The camera setup does protrude from the back panel quite a bit and it makes it a bit uneasy on a flat surface, but it really doesn't create an issue when you slide it into your pocket. The display is a 6.1-inch OLED panel with a quirky 18:7:9 aspect ratio and the resulting 2240 by 1080 pixels of resolution. That's noticeably lower than most flagships, but I have to say that I haven't really faced any issues in terms of quality or sharpness. The sunlight legibility and contrast is one of the best too, and while it may be a bit behind the S9 Duo and the iPhone X, it comes pretty damn close. The only use case where the display resolution might pose an issue is VR, but I think that the developments for VR have sort of stagnated for now and it'll be a few more years before we see some real use cases for the same. Now addressing the elephant in the room, the notch. It's one of the smallest notches around and it packs in an earpiece, proximity and ambient light sensors, a 24-megapixel front-facing camera and notification LED into that tiny space. However, for some it doesn't matter if the notch is tiny or not, they hate it. I feel indifferent about it. I don't hate it, but I don't like it either. It's just a design transition that we are going to have to live with before they're able to combine all those sensors etc. beneath the display. There's several customization options for the display, including the ability to adjust resolution, toggle the natural tone display, which works like Apple's True Tone technology, adjust the color mode, temperature, and even toggle the blue light filter. Fortunately, there are also ways with which you can mask the notch in the settings, and that might be a relief to some. The front-facing camera also works to help you facilitate the face unlock feature. It's extremely fast and very accurate as well. You can even enable a raise to wake feature to have a seamless unlock mechanism. The phone comes with Android 8.1 Oreo out of the box with EMUI 8.1 on top of it. Surely the UI is not everyone's cup of tea. It does offer some customizations as well as features that you won't find on stock Android and some other OEM skins, but is not very pretty. But you could always go for a custom launcher like I have here with Nova Launcher, and it also does support Project Treble. The settings UI can be enabled in a dark mode and it definitely looks more pleasing than the regular and may also help save some battery in the meanwhile. Although the skin may not be everyone's cup of tea, the UI layer itself is pretty light on the phone's hardware. The Kirin 970 chipset and 6GB of RAM perform amazingly well and is one of the fastest Android devices on the market currently that doesn't run stock Android. Much faster than Samsung flagships for sure, and we can only imagine how snappy it'll be if it's running AOSP. Gaming too is pretty snappy, and despite the chipset not scoring as high as some other 2018 flagships in benchmarks, it still feels more fluid and consistent than most. The phone comes with 128GB of storage by default in India and also has dual SIM, dual 4G and dual VoLTE support. There's no storage expansion available, but at the top there's an IR blaster and you also have a USB Type-C 3.1 port at the bottom, which also doubles up as your audio jack. Huawei does include Type-C earphones and a Type-C to 3.5mm audio converter in the box. The audio quality over the wired route is pretty good but not mind-blowing. What's great, however, are the speakers on this, which is one of the loudest we have seen and is very close to what the Razer phone and HTC U11 provide, both in terms of loudness as well as clarity. The earpiece doubles up as a speaker to provide a stereo experience, and in landscape mode, the phone automatically splits the two into left and right channels. The call quality is really good too over both the earpiece and the speaker. The most major USP of this device is definitely the camera setup. 3 cameras, all with OIS and all serving a different function. The primary is a 40 megapixel 1x1.7 inch sensor with f1.8 aperture, and it also has a secondary monochrome 20 megapixel f1.6 sensor of the same focal length, and finally an 8 megapixel f2.4 telephoto camera that has 3x optical zoom. Apart from all this, you get an LED flash, laser, face detection autofocus, color temperature sensor, and that's a lot of hardware, and the P20 Pro is also the current leading smartphone on DxOMark ratings. While that's not always a given for a better camera setup, it seems like it does indicate the P20 Pro's camera potential. The phone definitely deserves a full-blown camera review, and we'll be doing that soon, where here are some samples that give you an understanding on what to expect till then. The phone will last you all day, and this is true even for heavy users. We've gotten in and around 7 hours of screen on time on most days, and the standby drain too is very acceptable and low. The phone does support Huawei Supercharge and can charge from 0 to 100 in around 90 minutes, and we've also charged the phone from 19 to 60% in just 35 minutes. People will draw comparisons to the Apple iPhone X and the Samsung Galaxy S9 devices. While it'll be tough to convince anyone considering an iPhone X, mostly because they may be used to the Apple ecosystem and iOS, I find that the Galaxy S9 Plus seriously has its work cut out for it. Sure, the brand value that Huawei carries might not resonate as much as the other two that I mentioned. But in terms of offering a great experience and being the absolute best smartphone that money can buy, the P20 Pro definitely does a better job by offering a better experience and a feature set, and looks better in the process. If you're looking for the best flagship available, then I would most definitely recommend the P20 Pro to you. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next one.